There are currently 5 Tyrellians serving aboard the Enterprise. The mating habits of the Arcarian hornfowl are quite interesting, and Picard does the Vulcan neck pinch to Tuvok. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation Season 6, Episode 18, entitled Starship Mine, not to be confused with Starship Down of Deep Space Nine or Enemy Mine, cool movie, written by Morgan Gendel, directed by Cliff Bole. This was March 27th, 1993. Where were you? And how are you today, Sirach?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fantastic. Anytime we can record an episode like this is a good day. Everybody, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. We'd really appreciate that. And please visit us at patreon.com/the7th-rule to support the show and become a part of the community. All right, Sirach.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts on this episode.
What?
I know. Nerdy thoughts. However, you've never seen this episode before, to my knowledge. So I would love to know what you thought of it.
I thought it was a different episode than kind of what I'm used to seeing. So I did get a sense that a new writer was giving a whole different take on the show, essentially, using the characters that we like. But it did feel like a different writer, a different POV for some reason. I kind of was excited a little bit to see where we were going with it in the beginning when, they had the shot of the bridge empty with Picard walking around. I'm thinking, oh, where are we going with this? Are they, is this a big, like, we're shutting down shop type episode? So I wasn't sure. And so I kind of expected more than what I got.
Yeah, there was a nice moment there with Picard that was like poignant, where it looked like he was saying goodbye, old friend, or something. There was something there. Did you immediately recognize our buddy Tim Russ when he showed up?
Yeah, how do you not recognize Tim Russ? Of course I recognize Tim Russ. And I was looking to see if he was a Vulcan or not, because the way Tim Russ naturally wears his hair, he has an edge that on the sides that is kind of pointed, which is similar to how the Vulcan look is, right? And so I saw that and I thought, wait a minute, what's going on here? Is this a Vulcan? But then I couldn't tell, and I don't think it was. And so I was like, maybe he's just playing a different character.
I wonder if, let's see, Voyager started in 95. This was 93. So no, there wasn't really, I don't think they were really casting for it yet, but we know that he was like something like in the top 3 to be Geordi. And we know he also played a Klingon in Deep Space Nine. So maybe he just kept his hair like that to like be like, hey guys, I'm still here. I'm still Starfleet. Use me. And they're like, okay, Klingon in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was another one of our friends that was in this episode as well. Patricia Tallman, who we know she did stunts. She was a stand-in for Gates McFadden in some things, and also for Nana in Deep Space Nine in some things, if I remember correctly. But she played kind of like the second in command lady who is an alien. I don't know if you recognized her off the bat. It's tough when she had the makeup.
I didn't recognize her. But no, that's cool. It seems like Star Trek does do that. They, they really farm from a certain talent pool that they believe is qualified for, whatever they're doing genre-wise. And you see that with Jeffrey Combs. You see that obviously with Vaughn Armstrong. where, and we've even seen it with Armin, being brought back for the core character and things of that nature. But
Bunch of things, yeah.
so they really do farm from this particular pool of talent that they believe meets the
Yeah.
criteria of Star Trek and that kind of storytelling.
That's a really good point. And I think I'm gonna drop a bomb in a second, and I mean that in the cleanest way possible. Um uh I think people just naturally, when they're booking talent, they make mental or physical notes on somebody that auditioned really well, even if they didn't get the part. So it's just usually it's a case of this guy auditioned really well. For example, Tim Russ and Geordi. It's not a no forever. It's a let's hang on to this guy. We're not going to use him for this role, but we're going to use him. And then they do well. And then they're like, hey, we could use him again for a different alien. We could, if they like an actor, they're going to want to keep working with them. Sometimes it's kind of obvious. Sometimes like a guy that like, you're like, hey, that's the same guy. Sometimes they're aliens like Jeff Combs or whatever, and they could use him a million times. But they did that again in this episode because almost every one of the guest stars is in more Star Trek episodes than this. However, Sirach, I've got to tell you something.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite episodes ever.
Really?
I know.
I'm surprised.
This is this might be a top 5 episode. And when I was a kid, I spent that $19.95 to buy this episode on VHS tape, and I watched it over and over again. I had almost all the lines memorized. Like when I'm watching it today, I'm like, I remember this line. I know exactly what they're going to say. Also, I'm surprised that you're surprised because clearly my idol is Hutch, right? I mean, I'm obviously Calvin Hutchinson. Call me Hutch. So, Brian T. Hutch over
the
here. I mean,
small talk king.
Oh man, alive! That guy. Give that man an Emmy. And then I'm kind of surprised that, not that you don't think that it's amazing, but like you had to like Data mimicking Hutch and be like, hey, and he's like practicing and like getting the mannerisms down. I still crack up to this day after watching it like 15 times. Did you enjoy the humor of this episode?
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that. I put that down there. First of all, Data is funniest when he's not trying to be funny. So I actually enjoyed, for example, the turbo lift scene with Picard. And he's like, it's been quite a day, has it not? Just like, it's just a vague thing to say, right?
And then the third thing he starts to say, Picard interrupts him and goes, Mr. Data, are you all right? Are you feeling all right?
Like he's just what are you talking about?
Data, what is going on? And he said, and Data says, I think he said something like, I am attempting to fill a silent moment with non-relevant conversation. How did I do? And Picard says, maybe a little too non-relevant.
Yes. So that was funny to me, and so already I was kind of like interested in the humor. I knew Data was going to get opportunity to be funny. For example, that's kind of set the tone for what to expect from Data in this episode. And so, yes, the funniest moment to me in the whole episode was when Calvin Hutchinson came up to Beverly and he was like, Beverly, how you doing? And you could see Data hiding behind the pole or whatever. And he mimics his face. And that was I thought the funniest moment for me of the episode. Like I laughed out loud thinking, look at this guy. Because when we've all done that at some point. I remember I got in trouble as a student because I was making fun of our basketball coach, while he was not, paying attention. And so I was going through his mannerisms, how he pushes his glasses up and, and talks to us. And I remember he kind of like caught me in the act of the whole impersonation. And like I could see it on everybody else's face, so registered on everybody else's face. They were looking at me like, bro, you need to stop. You need to stop, right? But they didn't say it. And
Of course, they
by the
can't
time,
say it.
yeah. So by the time I caught on, I was like looking at their face, and I'm like, oh God, he's here, isn't
You
he?
could tell
And
you're like, he's
yeah,
right behind me, isn't
yeah, yes. So I felt like Data was in that kind of a moment where it's like a mimic. It's a mimicking of gesture moment. We all do it, when we think somebody's got mannerisms or things that are interesting or unique. We try to kind of imitate it out of jest or sometimes out of trying to implement or incorporate that into your own personality. So you might see somebody who's like a tough guy and you know I remember as a kid, I'd be like, go ahead, make my day.
Yeah.
Do the whole Clint Eastwood, try to, tough guy talk. So I thought that was fun to see. Brent
Yeah.
Spiner is funny.
What's funny is when I look back at how much they crammed into one episode, in that the comedy ended at like the 20 or 22 or 23-minute mark.
Yeah,
Yet all of that got crammed in. There was so much. There was Picard walking and everybody bugging him, and you could tell he needs a vacation. There was possibly the other funniest scene when Worf excuses himself, and then Geordi goes like, "What, Captain Permission?" He's like, Mr. LaForge, I cannot excuse my entire senior staff, right? And he's like,
yes, yes,
fun, and then they meet Hutch, and we see him like, oh God, Riker's like, oh geez, this guy, and then Crusher's like, oh boy, this guy, and Troy's like, oh, and they're all rolling, and meanwhile Data's doing this and that, and then finally they come together, and we're like, yes, finally, Data and Hutch
yeah,
together, and they get off like two peas in a pod. Did you know? I did know that, but did you know? Huh, that's fast. And to us, it's like we're in on the inside joke. We're like, this is hilarious. These two are meant for each other, and all of that as like the B plot in the first half of the episode only. I just thought it was really impressive that they were able to cram all of that into 20 plus minutes, and it was just the B plot, but it felt like we had this giant arc already with these characters, and I really appreciated that.
yeah. I was also though looking for some other element,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to tell you what I felt like that was for me missing. I wanted Calvin Hutchinson's character to be tied in more to the A storyline than it was, and
Interesting.
I felt like it did sit so far apart that it didn't. I wanted more tie-in, and for example, he could have been involved with this plot because there was part of me thinking, is this guy just buying time so that these other people can get this mission done, right? So he's just going to filibuster essentially until mission is completed, and then he's done his part to assist these renegade group of people. And then so there was a little bit of suspicion on my part in that way,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've never seen this episode, so I don't know who he is and what his part is in this whole scheme. So I'm thinking, is he connected to the scheme? That was my first part. The second part was, if he's not connected to the scheme and he's just a filibuster talkative person, then there should have been an element there where I felt he should have been an embellisher.
Hmm.
And what he was saying was true and accurate. And so there's just smart fact like people that love to tell you every fact in the world and say, oh, do you know what happened? Do you know that particular thing is made out of 40% carbon? And
Well, certainly
right?
none of them are Star Trek fans.
Yeah, right. Yes. But there's people like that. And I would have liked that. This is what I felt like would have worked well for the story as far as this particular episode is concerned. If Calvin Hutchinson is an embellisher of a great stories that happened to him in his past, because a lot of them were stories. Well, I'll tell you who came here one time, and I did this, and I one time I did this, and if those stories were being called out by Data, as in, well, I checked the files and there's no record in Starfleet of you.
like Chunk in the Goonies, where he's like, Michael
Yeah,
Jackson came to use my bathroom. Michael Jackson didn't use your bathroom. No,
yeah,
no, he didn't. But his sister did.
exactly, exactly. That would have worked better for me because Data could have been easily counterfactor, counterfacting his facts and essentially saying, no, well, I checked the personnel record and I don't see any evidence of you being on Tiberian 9 at the same time that, such and such occurred. And so then there would have been another back and forth. And that plays into the A story. How? Because Picard is actually doing heroic things while this guy is talking about heroic things that he has accomplished. And
Sure.
that would have been the contrast that I would have needed for the chef's kiss on this episode.
Yeah, and to be fair, I've got a million nitpicks with this episode. Not saying that what you have is a nitpick, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not 100% sure why I like this episode so much, because there are so many things I can nitpick. I can nitpick it to death. There's so many things. But for me, I think the reason I liked it so much is because the humor was really funny to me. It's not usually, the humor that's like a cute little haha, or at the end of an original series thing, where it'll be like, now, what would you know about that, Spock? And it's like, wah, 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 a little song plays
Yeah.
and Spock raises an eyebrow, and you're like, okay, I guess that's humor. They tried. But this actually cracked me up,
Yeah.
And so I really, really like the humor. And I thought that, some people liken it to like Star Trek's Die Hard, right? Because Picard is doing like Die Hard stuff. And there's also the comedy of him with the saddle and he's pretending to be the Bolian Mr. Mott. And there's some really good scenes in there. Like he basically, I mean, it gets pretty heavy. At the end there, Picard is now living with the fact that he killed 6 people. And each one of those moments kind of hits, like when he hears the baryon sweep hit that guy, he's walking away, baryon sweep hits, we hear the scream, Picard kind of stops and has a moment, and you could tell it's registering. He's like, I just killed somebody, and it weighs heavily on him. And when that lady, flies off in the ship and her ship blows up, he doesn't like smirk. He like kind of stares, and you could see that he's going, I had to do it. I don't like it, but I had to do it. And that I'm sure that's in the script, and I'm sure that personally, I think Patrick Stewart, nails it because he just has a moment. He just pauses. He has a moment. The director gives him that moment to sit on his face for a second. So there's just so many elements to this episode. I feel like it's crazy because it's like a comedy and kind of an action thriller like Die Hard, and they're totally different. Obviously, the comedy goes away after the first half. I think most of my nitpicks would be when the comedy dies and they're all being held hostage by 2 people. But anyway, I'll get into those right away.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I felt like this was a real good opportunity to show Picard's heroism.
Mhm.
And, he's actually on a one-man, basically, away team mission. This isn't a one-man, the captain alone on an away mission. And the away mission is on the Enterprise itself. So just off of that, as far as being a premise of your story, that's pretty cool as a premise of the story. If I'm pitching it to the writers, right, they're going to be like, "Oh, he's on an away mission, but it's on the Enterprise. No one else is on there except for this rogue group." So that's great because we don't have to build another set. We just have to dress down the Enterprise, turn the lights off, and that's a great story idea in itself. Again, I think the element that I would have liked is to contrast Picard versus Hutchinson. Picard being the guy who does the the necessary things to do, regrets loss of life in these circumstances, and then goes on to meet up with the same group of guys and doesn't brag about it in the same way that Hutchinson brags about his so-called experiences and victories or achievements. That would have showed the perfect. That would have been the perfect bow tie on this present, basically revealing that Picard, not only is he brave, not only is he a hero, but he's also humble and not
Right.
braggadocious about it. And he comes back and, hey, how was? Are you okay? How was everything? And it's just, we lost 6 people, and then and leaves it at that. And it's not like I fought this guy and I had to stab him and I threw him over the thing and there was another 3 people were holding me and I got out of it like on a last second, like, instead of doing the Hutchinson thing, doing the Picard thing, which is taking the high road and showing us the kind of leadership that he did in the moments that he did. I like the moment where he took a pause in that shot. I thought that
Hmm.
was a great moment there because there was no words there, but it was very obvious that he was taking a moment of silence for a person who lost their life, who, although they may be committing a crime, may not deserve death as a punishment for that crime. Right?
I just realized something. It's almost, I know I'm mistaken, but it almost seemed like you were slandering my idol, Hutch, for just a second. You were,
Yeah, you know what?
it almost sounded like you were
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
my hero, Calvin Hutchinson, call me Hutch, is in fact not actually a hero. Did I? But I'm sure. I know
Uh,
I'm
I
misinterpreting
feel
completely.
a level of embellishment with Calvin Hutchinson that goes far beyond the
The
stars.
stars.
Yeah. So
All
yeah,
right.
no. And then the other thing that bothered me too is like, did he diss the name Calvin? I think he dissed the name itself, Calvin. Like he said, "Oh, my name's Calvin," and he said something bad about it, like,
Yeah, yeah, but then he said, "Just call me Hutch." Well, and
yeah."
the other thing,
But
and I
then I
always
like a Calvin. There's a Calvin that I do like. Isn't there a Calvin on DS9 that was part of the Maquis?
exactly. And do you remember how close his name was? Because this is what I was going to mention. His
Oh,
name was. Oh, we got to take a
Calvin.
break, everybody. Unless you got it, because I got it.
I
If you get it
don't.
right,
I don't.
okay.
I don't. But I thought it was Calvin. I know it's Calvin. Yeah.
Uh, right now, people are typing in the live chat and the comments. I'm like, we know what it is because I remember thinking that too. I remember going like, boy, these names are really close. We'll be right back. And we got to get into all the people and the different things that they've done. It's really cool. On the seventh rule.
Yeah.
All right, here are the trivioids of the week. Well, Hutch provide us with like 40, but let's just do some. The Enterprise is docked at the Remler array. The Arcaria base does not have the medical storage units Dr. Crusher requested. Arcaria has some very interesting weather patterns. Data attempts to fill a silent moment with non-relevant conversation. The mating habits of Arcarian hornfowl are quite interesting. Most Sirius riders do have their own saddles. Captain Edwell was born on Gaspar 7, but you wouldn't know it from the way he looked. Picard does the Vulcan neck pinch to Tuvok. There are currently 5 Tyrellians serving aboard the Enterprise. Trilithium resin is a highly toxic waste product produced by the Enterprise engines. Tyrellians, isn't there like a mountain range called the Tyrellian Mountains? I know it's an area. Tyrelia or Tyrolia?
That's who those criminals were on board the ship.
No, that's just this race of whatever that's on the Enterprise again. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So here we go. Calvin
Yeah.
Hudson,
Oh, I was like,
Commander.
I
There's a
swear I
Calvin
thought there was another.
Hutchinson and a Calvin
Yes.
Hudson, and they both.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
So
guy
I was.
betrayed Cisco. The other guy died midway through the episode. Well, although I would like to believe my headcanon is that Calvin didn't die. We just didn't see Beverly, giving a shit about him like she gave a shit about Jordan. You notice like he got shot and nobody ran to his defense. Geordi gets shot, and they're like, I think we can save him. He needs some water. He needs medical. This and that. They're like, oh, let's get him some water. Oh, get out of the way, Hutch. I have to step on Hutch to get Geordi some water. Nobody cared. They're like, thank God. But I like to believe that Hutchinson actually like brushed it off and was like, I'm okay. I'm just going to sit in the corner here quietly till the end of the episode.
Oh, yeah. I missed that whole exchange there. I don't even know when
Something
that
like
happened. That. Yeah, but, I wasn't a fan of Hutch, so I wasn't exactly cheering for him. I'm sorry that he's your hero like that.
You just watch the episode another dozen times. You'll love him.
Oh, you love him. Do you remember anything that he said? Like any one of his brags about anything?
Well, I said some of them in the trivioids, but what I really liked was when Data says, like, he comes around the corner and he's like, Hutchinson says to him, did you know that, whatever it was? And then Data says, I did know that. I have to like see the episode, the scene open. And then, it's kind of like when you listen to a song, sometimes you can't hit those lyrics until you get queued up. But then Data says, like, I did know that, but did you know that blah, 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 that's just, but he talked about how that commander guy, Edwell or something like that, came to this starbase or the Remler array.
Yeah.
Things like that. But it wasn't so much that he was a braggart. He was just, look, Sirach, look, you're a Star Trek celebrity. You go to conventions. You're very nice. Don't pretend like you haven't met 100 Calvin Hutchinsons every day at STLV. And I'm not. That's not no shade. I'm just saying that there are a lot of people. We recognize people in this guy, right?
Well, and that brings me to my next point, which was I thought it was funny when Riker comes up and says, have you met Data? I'd like to introduce you, right? And the other guy that was sitting there talking comes up and says, thanks for saving me, right? And I don't know how many times any one of us have been in a situation where you're dying to be saved.
That's a true friend. Somebody that goes in there and hooks you up. They're like, sometimes they'll even say that. They'll be like, you look like you needed to be saved. And you're like, thank you.
Yes. Where you're just kind of sitting there in a conversation and you're like, you can't get out. You don't know how to get out. And you're thinking of a way. And it's just like that one friend comes along and says, hey, what's going on? Just breaks up the spell of hypnotization.
Yes. Here's the thing that people got to realize, and this is a public service announcement, okay? Everybody, you're not a bad person if you're this kind of guy or gal. It's totally fine. It's cool. Everybody loves people like this because they're positive, they're friendly, whatever. However, if you're talking at somebody, I won't say with somebody because you're basically talking at somebody, and they're on their third, wow, that's crazy. That's your cue to know they're not even really listening. The other thing is, the other cue you'll notice is if the only thing they're saying is, oh, yeah, because saying no continues the conversation. They're like, what? What do you mean? Why not? What, but oh, yeah. Oh yeah! Wow,
just
that's crazy.
Get it all out. Get it all out.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's public service announcement. If you're worried that you might be talking too much to somebody, if they're on their third, wow, that's crazy. Not saying you have to end the conversation, but lean out a little bit, and if they're just only saying yeah and nodding, but not really adding anything. Anyway,
it's time to move on. But I want to say this too: Riker had one of the great lines after that moment too. So the guy comes up and says, thanks for saving me, man. And Riker says, he looks at the two of them with Data and Hutchinson, and he says, I don't know who to feel sorry for. That had me rolling too. Because it's like who's gonna win in this
they were
this
happy.
battle.
They were so happy.
They were happy.
Hutch should have
But
transferred over to the Enterprise. Data would have had a new best friend.
and everybody would have asked for a transfer.
No, well, they would have been just
Uh,
grateful that Data was there to like take the guys. He would be like the guy's chaperone, basically. He would have to be.
yeah, the two of them would definitely be inseparable. Hey, it turns out that Riker's not the only one in the saddle all the time.
That's pretty good. I'll take that one.
Oh
That's very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of touched on it earlier, but I think it needs to be said that, I'm always crying about how great Geordi is, how great LeVar Burton is, not only just to be such a great actor and with delivering his lines, but also being able to perform without the use of his eyes, right? With the visor there. But in that scene when Worf says, Captain, permission to be relieved from Commander Hutchinson's reception. He says it with such disdain. Yeah. And Picard goes, okay, fine, go for it. When Worf says permission to be excused from the reception, Geordi turns and goes, and you could see his eyebrows go up like, oh shit, is this a thing? And then Picard says, okay, that's fine. And Geordi's like, oh shoot, I'm going to jump on this too. But such great acting, great comedic acting, just the turn and the eyebrows up. Perfect. So I just want to make sure to put that out because...
And Picard threw a nice jab in there too. He's like, Mr. Wolf beat you to it.
Yeah. Like, sorry, pal, I'm not going to do everybody. One favor, that's it. Oh, and then when Data and Hutch, they meet and they start talking and then they both chuckle together at the same time. They're both like, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, yes.
Beautiful. So, okay. I want to point out... Oh, God, there's so many funny moments, though. Okay. So I wanted to point out what some of these guys were doing. First of all, the writer, Morgan Gendel, sounded familiar to me, but not very familiar with Star Trek. It's not one of those names that we hear a million times, like the Ronald D. Moores or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So I looked, and yes, he had written 2 Deep Space Nine episodes, early episodes. Season 1, Episode 9, The Passenger, and Season 2, Episode 13, Armageddon Game. And he wrote one other Next Generation episode. And that one is, let me see if you've heard of this one, Season 5, Episode 25, The Inner Light, which is heralded by many people as the best Star Trek episode ever, or certainly one of. And it's a completely different tone than this. There's no comedy. There's no action. This one was basically comedy and action, and Inner Light was just like a beautiful story. And I'm impressed that this guy wrote 2 Next Generation episodes that could not be more different. But they're both, in my opinion, very good. So 4 episodes. And he's got a ton of work on a ton of TV, like Law and Order, The 100, Spider-Man. I mean, this guy goes on forever. So he's definitely Jake and the Fat Man. I remember 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was pretty impressed by that.
Yeah, and it's funny because he says where he wrote in this one of his lines was for Riker, which I also thought was funny. He says, Riker says, "How long can 2 people talk about nothing?" And I thought that's so funny because that's exactly what Seinfeld was essentially. Yep. The whole. So it's like about 7 seasons I think they did of Seinfeld.
I think even more than that, maybe.
Might be 9.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we've got this guy named Alan Altshold. So he played Pommet, who was, I think he might have been the shoelaces guy, the shoelace holes on his forehead. Yeah. He's also been in a Next Generation episode, or he will be in season 7. And so I'm not going to tell you that one because I feel very strongly about that one as well. And he was in 2 episodes of Voyager as 2 different characters as well. Season 4, episode 3, Day of Honor, and he was in season 3, episode 5 as the sandal maker in False Prophets. But 4 different characters, 4 different episodes, and it goes on forever. Like this list of people, and we know Tim Russ did a bunch.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
know Patricia Tallman did a bunch. Tim DeZarn, real quick, he was Sattler. I want to say he was the guy that got killed, but they all got killed. Let me look. I saw he had done other things too, really quickly. He was in, where'd it go?
That made me think of William Sadler.
Nice. Out in New York. He played a character named Halb in Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night. So everybody correct me, but I think that might have been that Cardassian that had half of his face kind of missing and burned off, and he captured Major Kira, if you remember that guy. I think it might have been that guy. I'll have to check and confirm that. But anyway, a lot of cool stuff like that.
Yeah, I think so. Beverly, may I call you Beverly? that was Data walking up on it. But yeah, I thought there were some moments there that they made really Picard a badass when he pulled out the crossbow. I was like, oh, he's going full Rambo / Hot Shots.
Okay, no, just a quick correction. No, he was a Bajoran guy in that one. He was not that guy. I can't remember who that actor was that played that, but he's fairly well known for that. Anyway, please continue.
No, I was just saying this was Picard's Rambo moment. He was loading up the arrows for his crossbow. He was cutting off the ladder rungs so that they couldn't get up the thing. I mean, he was just like, he was a real badass in this episode. I enjoyed that part. And then he really turned his lip up when he said "profit."
Well, because Picard's not a fighter. He can hold his own decently. He's more of a diplomat. And if you'll notice, he only really got into one fight and he lost to that main lady named Kelsey. So he had to basically just kind of outwit and outsmart and outmaneuver and kind of come up with little explosives and kind of outthink them and be a step ahead of them and figure out where to go and cut the rungs of the ladder and things like that, which is really cool. Yeah. It shows, his forte, because too often Star Trek, or less than most TV shows, but they just go like, oh, the good guy wins by punching him in the mouth and the guy gets knocked out. And he goes, oh boy, my knuckle hurts, but I knocked him. That's too easy. It's too easy to just knock somebody out with one punch. That's like, come on. So for Picard, he had to work, and it was fun to see. Really interesting.
Yeah, if he had came up to me though, saying that I'm Mott the barber, I would have said, then who are you?
Mott the mama. Okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back, if possible. We're running low on time here. But what did you think of the performances of all of these guest stars? Because we had Hutch, we had Orton, depending on who was saying it, and we had 6 bad guys on the ship. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of guest stars. That's like 8. So
yeah, but maybe even 9, because there was another guy who was standing there.
There was
him hostage,
and he had a few lines, but not a ton. But yeah, he's the 9th. Yeah,
yeah. They were okay. They were okay. I wasn't, obviously Hutch made the biggest splash there with his performance. I did like the villain, the woman who was playing the villain, Kelsey, I think you said her name was. I thought she was pretty good and believable as somebody not to play around with. Also like the performance of the science engineer that was putting the thing inside of the containment box. I thought he played like a nice puny kind of,
I think that was Neil. Maybe was it Neil?
Yeah, I thought he did a very good job at playing like this kind of subservient, smart scientist guy who basically gets double crossed at the end. And he had a good look on his face when he realized he was about to get double crossed too, right? That was a nice moment there for him when she says, "Oh, can you tell me, how to disengage the thing?" He's like, "Yeah, all you got to do is this, that, and the third." She's like, "Okay, thank you." And he's like, "You
And then
leaving me here to die?"
this guy that played Orton, the guy that kind of held them up, I believe he's also in more Star Trek episodes. Let me just check and make sure, because I remember looking this up and going like, oh my God, like all of these people, it's kind of like a who's who. Plus, both of the ladies worked on Babylon 5, as we know. I think Patricia Tallman played a character named Lita, spelled differently than than Deep Space Nine's Lita, of course. And the other lady, I can't remember what character she played in Babylon 5. But the guy that played Orton was also the navigator in Star Trek Generations, the movie. He plays Ensign Burke in Peak Performance, which was in the second season of Next Generation. And then he was in Voyager as a guard. He was in Alien Nation. Like every one of these people has done multiple sci-fi projects. And I just thought that was really, God, these guys, their IMDb pages go on forever. So good casting, I thought. Good. I mean, none of them really had a character that you can really show off your acting skill. It's not like when you have one guest star, they can really give you a lot. When you have 9, it's kind of tough. The only one that really could get kind of sink their teeth into something was Hutch, and then maybe Kelsey. Those were the two that kind of had something to work with.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's just about time for the home run of today's episode. Sirach Lofton, who gets the home run in this top 5 episode ever
Top
of all
5.
time in 60
Top
years of
5
Star
for you,
Trek?
baby. Well, I think that the home run goes to Patrick Stewart in my book. I just think he gave me another great performance. He had subtle looks. He has the clever. He has the confidence when he needs to. Um, he had the disappointment in his when having the responsibility to meet Hutch. He played all the notes the right way, and so I think he sold it the most for me. So yeah, I'm going to say Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know uh, if the writer pitched this episode to them and they said, "This is really good. Can you write the episode?" Or if they just hired on a freelance writer and were like, "Hey, we've got an idea. Why don't you write this thing?" Like, if they gave him the idea to write an episode, or if he pitched them the idea and they had him write it. But either way, it's a really tough decision for me. I mean, obviously, it has to be Hutch. This is a grand slam to win the World Series. He is the Ichiro. He
Oh
is
God.
he is the Ichiro, not just of the Next Generation, but he is the Ichiro of 60 years of Star Trek. And I think most people, when they search their hearts, they will know it to be true. But also, also the writer Morgan Gendel, of course, you search your heart, you know it to be true too, Sirach.
Yeah.
But Morgan Gendel also gets it because I just thought it was that the humor was there and the scheming was there. I was just surprised at how much he was able to cram in there and do so well, considering he wasn't a regular writer's room writer. He just kind of popped in, wrote an episode, and popped out. So
I'm curious to see what Jason says about the directing. I'm sure he's going to have some pointers for us on the other side. So I'm curious to hear what he says.
Me too. All right, everybody. We would like to thank our pals, and their names are Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman Tom, TJ Jackson Bay out Missouri, Titus Muller, Dr. Muhammad Noor, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Goo, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manasfi, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Chris Sternett, Greg K. Wickstrom, Cassandra G., Chuck A., Chris Garris, and of course, the aforementioned Jason M. Oken. All right, everybody, stick around. Many of those people are banging down the door. They will be here on the free-for-all. Up next, we will be right back on The Seventh Rule. TM. Am I even legally allowed to say that? Probably not. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton. This is The Free-for-all with Melissa Longo.
Yo.
And Jason M. Oken.
Say yo.
Hi, everybody.
Also, Eve England is out in Wales. Chris Garris is in Southeast Texas, probably.
I'm in Texas, South Texas. That's right.
Chuck A. is the TNG fanatic.
Hello.
Carrie Schwent, a.k.a. Crafty Bear, is also kind of a TNG fanatic. Allison Leach Hyde is hanging out with us from the heart of New Mexico. Mark Zutkoff has chosen great still frames.
How do?
Chris Garris works with the Extra Life team, although when this comes out, it will be over, so you better...
That's the wrong Chris.
No, he doesn't. That's Chris.
Sorry, Chris McGee. I'm so sorry. So you guys better go back in time, edit what I said first, and then donate preemptively to Chris McGee, the Dark Lord, Sturm Brightblade. And the Matt Boardman is also here with a good face by Data. All right. This is where it gets weird. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
7.2.
Interesting. Does anybody else have any guesses that doesn't already know?
What'd you say? 7.2?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 7.8.
7.7. 7.5.
6.8.
7.4.
Oh, 6.8.
I'll take 7.3. What the heck?
Who said 6.8?
I did.
Jason.
Oh, okay. Eve, do you
I'll
have
be
any
the
guesses?
contrarian today.
I think it was higher. I think I'd say 8 because it's.
Wow.
All right. So
I'm
Chris,
obviously wrong then.
so Chris Garris is a 7.8. Eve, you're an 8. And the answer is 7.9. You guys are like the
Yes.
Oreo cookie around it.
Wow. Crazy.
That is, I
Yay.
personally think that is shamefully low for this excellent episode. I only heard one non-appearance mentioned for Mott, I guess, technically, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Any others? What's the other one?
Well, okay. The Shellyak. That's not a people though, but that's a race. But they did mention them though.
And they did appear.
Yeah, they
It
did.
does. Yes, but non-appearance mentions are for characters who have been on the show and have been played by a specific actor. So that actor would get residuals had they been on the show
Damn.
instead of being named in the show. So non-appearance mention is so that particular actor that played Mott would get those residuals.
I'm gonna
Elise
need
is
to
a
see
tough
that
one.
rule book.
Yeah, it's a good rule though. That's a good one. What's the other? Oh, some kind of or some sort. Oh, this got to have something.
Indeed, it does. It's almost hard to miss, even when Kirios says he shot him with some kind of an arrow.
Great. I missed it. All right. Melissa Longo, will you please get us started off on the right track by telling us what you thought of this episode?
Let me start by saying when I started trying to watch this episode, my brain was nowhere on the screen. So I had a hard time focusing. But then when I actually sat down, and this is because I have such a short attention span nowadays, and I blame it on that it's such a short attention span that that I really have to focus on something. But when I did focus on it, I was like, oh, this is a good episode. I enjoyed this episode quite a bit for several reasons. One is Hutch. What a little cutie pie.
See, Sirach.
I mean, the poor dude is so freaking annoying, but in the best possible way. He's so unaware of how annoying he is that it's almost endearing. And then you throw Data into the mix, and these two are going, because he's just as unaware of how annoying it is, that they're zeroing in on this small talk. I think that's hilarious. So they're back and forth, and Data's learning behind the pillar, and he's going, hilarious. And then there's another moment when Picard, who does this maneuver, this is the real Picard maneuver in my book, where he'll introduce Hutch to somebody new in order to ditch them. And, I've been on the receiving end of this by somebody, perhaps maybe even in this group, who has adopted this same kind of you know who you are. Same kind of thing. But it was hilarious that Picard bumped into walls when he's trying to excuse himself. And then Deanna's reaction behind Hutch's head, where she's rolling her eyes. And then when he turns back to her, she's like, hilarious. That was a great moment. What else? I am really sad that he got killed. I'm very sad about this. And I love the physicality and the body language in this episode, particularly when Troy is leaning her head on Riker's shoulder. I thought that was such a great moment for the two of them. There was great moments between them throughout the episode, but also when Beverly is tending to Geordi and she's rubbing his arm, and it's very subtle. You wouldn't notice it really, but it shows some compassion and care on her end, and I love that. I love this crew together because they are such a cohesive group. They work well together, and they genuinely care about each other. My favorite moment, however, is when Picard is by himself on the bridge and he's looking around and taking in the Enterprise, and this is his place. This is his space. And I just love it for, I don't know, it just, and it's a great contrast from the opening episode, from where everyone is coming at him, Captain, 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 Captain. These are the reasons why this is his space. But then he gets to take it in and appreciate it and kind of, appreciate the profound effect it has on him as a person. I had some more things. Nah, I think that's all for now. The rest can be for things left unsaid. But I enjoyed it overall. I do have some nitpicks, but that's all. Yeah.
Excellent. Couldn't agree more. Jason M. Oken, could you agree more that this is a top 5 episode ever?
Oh, definitely a top 5. What I would say is that it's certainly better than I remembered it being. And perhaps when you look at it from a certain different point of view, if you'll kind of look at it carefully, it really is probably one of the faster moving Cliff Bowl episodes. And it really is kind of fast paced, and you do have different sort of different tones, obviously, on the ship and on the station or the surface, whatever you want to call that, with a lot of humor. And again, it breaks your tension very, very well. And again, I think it moves along pretty well on the ship with Picard having that sort of action. And Interestingly enough, I think there's a lot of screen direction in this script, probably more than you'd usually see, even down to the sort of fight choreography, not typically what you'd see. So a lot of that sort of was worked in, and it kind of feels tense on the page, and you do see some of that on the screen, which is great. I mean, there's some leaps in logic, and I'll save some of that for later. But at least you get sort of this, nice humor on the planet. It's nice, it's playful. And then you have, some people call it Die Hard, some people call it whatever else. You can call it Home Alone, if you will, with Picard setting traps for the so-called terrorists. And it's nice to see Tim Russ making his first Trek appearance as well here. So yeah, there's a lot to say about this. I'll save most of it for later. But again, I think it certainly moves along very, very well, and it keeps you entertained for the full 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Home Alone, famous for the many scenes, including that one I just demonstrated. Thank you very much, Jason M. Oken. Eve England is out in Wales. She's seen Home Alone, I bet. But you've never seen this episode. Did you love it? Come on.
No, well, I haven't. And I actually did really enjoy it. And I think what everyone has already said, there's so many good moments throughout. I love the two different scenes. But yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a really rubbish version of Die Hard, but still super fun. And what I did like doing, because I am a big Die Hard fan, which I watch every Christmas, obviously, and that's why I've got a Christmas t-shirt on. I just like trying to pair up all of the different scenes and all of the different one-liners from this episode to what's in the actual film. Sadly, I mean, Picard is no match for John McClane. I mean, clearly that sort of silk shirt really was not a good sort of look for all of the action sequences. And it was a pretty sanitized version, obviously, of the film, like obviously for the reasons that it's a Star Trek show. I mean, there were no obscenities, there was no sort of real violence, no yippee-ki-yays to be seen. And most disappointingly, I was really disappointed by the fact that it was massively lacking in any festive spirit. Unless, I suppose, I was thinking, well, maybe those sort of big tall wine glasses that were red and green are kind of adding some sort of festive spirit. But that was a bit sort of a bit lame. But I did really enjoy it. What I think let it down, though, because I think the scenes in the party were really good, but in terms of the Die Hard action sequences, I just felt that the music let it down. It was a bit lackluster. You didn't have that big sort of finale, sort of crescendo in 10 Forward at the end, and the terrorist just seemed a bit dull. And the main terrorist. I think because we're so used to the legend that is Hans Gruber, she was just disappointing and underwhelming for me. But still, I just really enjoyed it, and I would definitely watch it again because it was so much fun.
So did you thought that it was better or worse than Die Hard? Couldn't quite tell from thank you very much, Eve England out in Wales. Chris Garris is hanging out outside of a Baryon sweep. I can see it over your shoulder. What do you think of this one?
It had been a while since I've seen this one, and somewhat I agree with everybody so far. It's not, it's not a, just one of these, thought-provoking episodes or anything like that. It's just just a good action-packed, within reason episode. There's nothing too crazy going on. I did like how he said it was Mott. But it did remind me, the opening really did remind me of the Fistful of Datas, because literally at the very beginning, Captain, I need to do this. Captain, can we do that? And I'm just like, I felt like Troy and Crusher could have made some of those decisions on their own without having to ask the captain for permission, because I'm like, especially Dr. Crusher, like, just go talk to Geordi and do exactly what what he suggested, because I bet Geordi could have come up with the same idea. But other than that, so I have a few little nitpicks, but nothing too crazy. But no, so that again, just that, right off reminded me of that episode, that scene. I love how, Data's adding to his programming to try and learn how to do small talk, but she does not do very well, or maybe he does it too well. Is maybe a better way of putting it, but then I love, of course, remembering this episode, putting him and Hutch together was just so great. I mean, I've been there too. Like all of us were like, "Oh my God, that person's going to talk," and like, how can I pawn them off to somebody else? And and Data's the perfect person to do that to because he can talk for hours and never get bored or never want to just pull his hair out and not want to walk away. So he's a perfect person. I wish we had Data every now and then that we could do that. And of course, I love, obviously they're all dreading the reception, and Worf is the smart one. He gets to the captain as fast as he can, and he gets the yes. And sorry, Mrs. Forge, I cannot excuse the entire senior staff. Too bad. You got to go. Worf was faster. And Worf gets a little, kind of smile there. He's like, I got lucky. And again, the scenes on the planet when Picard's like, oh, horses, I can go get my saddle. And I really think you could see it in their face when Troy and LaForge, I think they're calling BS that he actually has a saddle, but he actually did have a saddle, but still, I just, that was just like any excuse to get away from that horrible reception they did not want to go to. And I think the last thing I'll say here, and then anything else I'll say, on Links Left Unsaid, which you have to become a Patreon member if you want to hear that. I did think it was highly ironic and just funny is that Picard does the Vulcan neck pinch on Tim Russ, who eventually becomes a Vulcan. And I was like, okay, that was funny. I'm like, oh my God. And that's Jesse said earlier, this was Tim Russ's first role in Star Trek. So he got the Vulcan neck pinch before he became a Vulcan. Mm-hmm. So, but overall, it's I mean, that's why I said 7.8. It's not a bad episode. It's not a super great episode. It's just a good sit down 47 minutes of just, entertainment, action, and seeing how he's going to get away from getting dematerialized by that stupid beam.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Chris Garris. Agree with you completely. Fantastic episode. Chuck A., what do you think of this one?
Well, thanks, Ryan. May I call you Ryan?
Call me Husk.
Well, the episode is, I was so looking forward to seeing it. The Data and Hutch scene was fantastic. And I loved the moment in the turbo lift with Picard asking Data if he was okay. He was trying to do the small talk in the turbo lift. In the turbo lift. Picard in the saddle. Everybody asked. He says, "You have a saddle on the Enterprise?" I love the reaction, and the Mr. Mott Nam was so fantastic. He kept on kept on saying he was Mott, and the people there took over the ship kept on calling him Mott, and he finally had to tell him at the end that he was Captain Picard. But he was going along around the ship. He removed some of the rungs in the Jeffries tube, and he had these little booby traps for people. And like what Chris was mentioning with the Vulcan neck pinch on the soon-to-be Vulcan, and he shot that Worf's arrow into the one guy, and he said, "Well, don't worry, he's stunned." And then they said, "Well, we don't have time to go back and get him." Picard obviously didn't like that. The 10 forward scene was good, where Picard is up in the ceiling there trying to avoid getting the baryon sweep, and finally they turn it off. But the scene in sickbay also I really like when Worf brings him the saddle. He said somebody put it in a storage locker, and Picard had this nice little smile on his face. A good way to end the episode. One of my favorite episodes. I've always enjoyed watching this.
And you're the TNG fanatic, and you know what you're talking about. Thank you very much, Chuck A. Carrie Schwentz is the crafty bear. Carrie, Oh, nice background. What do you think of this one?
Thank you. Yeah, I had a little fun with Photoshop yesterday, putting that together because yeah, it's just so Die Hard, and like Eve, I love Die Hard, and I actually heard Eve's voice in my head when Picard walks out and he's got his riding outfit on from the last time he had a riding outfit on. And the name you called him, I hear that in my head every so often, and it just makes me smile every time. But yeah, it's fantastic. So many guest stars. A lot of them I didn't recognize per se, but a couple of them I thought I did. And in looking them up, I discovered we have not one but two of the guest stars have been on Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. The guy with like the long face who was like up higher in engineering, he's only on one episode very briefly, but the guy that's holding the phaser on Picard, he's been in 6 episodes as a sergeant, like kind of sprinkled in like throughout the season. He's great. And why couldn't he have let Picard sit in the rolly chair that's like 3 feet away? They made him sit on the floor. That's mean. It would have been easier to hold your gun on him if you could have just rolled him in front of him. That way he could keep him in sight with the pistol on him and still watch what his friends were doing. And I hadn't seen this in a really long time, so I think the only parts of it I remembered was Data like in the background starting to figure out how to with his facial expressions and trying to mimic before he gets started actually doing the mimicking, which is just absolute gold. I was howling with laughter, and I kept thinking I wanted like a couple a side sort of scene to that of Riker and Deanna, or Riker and Beverly maybe taking bets on how long the two of them could keep going before poor Hutch drops dead of exhaustion. Oh, wait, never mind. Anyway, but I think Deanna, when Picard gets all excited about going riding, I think she's forgotten that they had a discussion about riding when he was on the holodeck. She knows how much he enjoys riding. I haven't got a chance to ride very often, but the couple of times I have on recent cruise excursions, I love it. I enjoy it. If I had the opportunity to do it more, I would probably own my own saddle too. I go bowling enough. I have my own ball and shoes. I'm very particular about that, so I could totally see why Picard would insist on having his own saddle. Yeah, Picard is just fantastic in it. The body count is pretty high, and he seems all very casual about it, especially at the end when he's got that stabilizer bed in his hand. And he's like, she's not going to last very long, and then 2 seconds later, kaboom, bye. Very, very, very casual, and like Chris Garris, Worf smirking when after getting out of going to the reception is just, yeah. Again, comedy gold. This episode deserves a much higher than a 7.9. But of course, given my background, I had to do the limerick inspired by Picard and John McClane. So I'll finish up with that. All I wanted was my saddle. Now I must deal with this hassle. Stuck in a Die Hard movie. Yippee-ki-yay, grim lady. Guess she took on more than she could handle.
Thank you very much. Carrie Schwent, a.k.a. Crafty Bear, round of applause. Allison Leach Hyde is the heart of New Mexico. What is up, and what do you think of this one?
I have always enjoyed this one. Ever since I was a kid. I mean, I was a Home Alone kid, so of course I loved this movie. You know, we got our captain running around laying booby traps everywhere. It was great. And Data, again, learning how to do small talk is probably some of the best comedic moments in Next Gen. I mean, his face is great. Like halfway behind the pillar, like it's actually hiding him doing the hand gestures. Gets me every time. And everyone slapping each other's backs in this episode. Hilarious. The real reason that Worf couldn't go to this would be that if he was there, they wouldn't have actually been held hostage. I mean, because then they would have had Data, Worf, and Riker against 2 people. I think they had the numbers on them. So I think that's why, writing-wise, Worf was going to be, just left out of the episode per se. He gets 2 little scenes. But I did love that Picard went weapon shopping in Worf's quarters in the middle of the episode. I thought that was very smart. And I mean, where else would you go when the power's down? Like, no, we're going to go to the Klingons' quarters and go get some weapons. So very smart. Highly enjoyable for all the reasons everyone has already mentioned. So good to know this is definitely one of our collective favorites. I think they tried out Janeway's hairdo from season 1 on Kelsey. Every time she turned to the side, I went, Janeway's hair. So good to know that they started that soon, working on different hairstyles for lady captains. And yeah, I'm going to just go, it's wonderful. Never skip it. I was super excited that I got to watch this one today.
Me too. Thank you very much, Allison Leach Hyde. All right, Mark Zutkoff, what do you got for us today?
Well, a lot has already been said, so I'll try not to duplicate things too much. But Picard as action man, that's just great. Nice change of pace for the captain. The rest of the officers each get interesting things to do, but poor Geordi has to suffer again. The teaser is packed. We've talked about it mostly, but that end sequence where Picard slowly walks through the empty bridge and fondles the railing, showing his love for the Enterprise, I just adored that. I thought that was fantastic. At that reception, Brent Spiner's comedic talents in full force as his facial expressions and hands imitate Hutch so good, and when he and Hutch get into it together, it's hilarious. Now, the Vulcan nerve pinch. Memory Alpha says it was supposed to be a simple carotid artery block in the script, but it also postulates that Picard's mind meld with Sarek left him able to nerve pinch, which means that both he and Data have that ability. It was fun throughout that Picard pretended to be Mott the Barber until it served his purpose to reveal who he was to the intruders. Is this the first mention of trilithium in Star Trek? I think so. Now, we had a couple of Babylon 5 alumni in this episode. Patricia Tallman, who played telepath Lita Alexander, played intruder Kiros, and Marie Marshall, who played Dodger as intruder leader Kelsey. In all, a thoroughly enjoyable episode balancing humor with action. There are a few nitpicks, but I'll save them for the ever-popular things left unsaid. And my home pun of the episode is based on a classic tune and references the advancing baryon rays and LaForge being injured, but I'll spare you the singing. The controlled sweeps wrong and Geordi's on my mind.
I think we need the singing.
Yeah. And things left unsaid. Thank you very much.
And
Chris McGee is the Dark Lord. Chris, how much did you love this one?
This is definitely a favorite episode of mine. I greatly enjoy the idea of Picard as a lone survival type of hero taking on a group of terrorists by himself. And I'm sorry, but I actually will be duplicating what other people have said so far here a little. As has already been pointed out many times, this episode is based on, of course, one of my favorite films of all time, I suppose, Die Hard, directed by John McTiernan. Even if Morgan Gindel, the writer of this episode, has both confirmed and denied that in separate interviews. So take from that what you will. Even Tim Russ's line, "You're Starfleet, you won't kill me," is reminiscent of one spoken by John McClane's first terrorist kill in Die Hard, who says, "You won't hurt me, you're a policeman. There are rules for policemen." And there's even a couple other lines too I could mention, but I won't, that are almost one for one the same between the two. As for guest stars, as was mentioned, I enjoy seeing Patricia Tallman again, not as a member of Worf's security team this time. As Jason said, this is Tim Russ's first Star Trek role before he was an officer on the bridge of the Enterprise B and Voyager. And it's great to see good old Glenn Morshower, whom I remember most as Agent Aaron Pierce on 24, in the almost unrecognizable role as Orton. We also get a brief shot of Lieutenant J, just as Picard is entering his ready room in the teaser. And of course, we also have the, once again, more impractical drinking glasses on the station, on the planet. We can't set them down on a table without one of those stands. Like Melissa and Mark, I love the nice touch of Picard just taking a moment to walk around the bridge and appreciate his ship, which has been through so much in the past 5.5, almost 6 years now. So much with him and his crew. On a personal note, when I first saw this episode and heard Commander Calvin Hutchinson tell everyone, "Call me Hutch," it hit pretty close to home for me. You see, my maternal grandfather's name was Harry Hutchins, and in his later years, his grandchildren, including me, started calling him Hutch. Brent, as everyone knows, is such a brilliant comedian that I'm convinced that when Riker and Beverly start laughing as Data does his small talk, I honestly believe they're not acting, absolutely laughing at Brent Spiner there. My memorable quote for the episode, something I'm going to be saying tomorrow after I finish my Extra Life Marathon, is, "It has been quite a day, has it not?"
I did find myself wondering which one you were going to choose during this episode because there were so many good ones.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much, Dark Lord Chris McGee. The Matt Boardman, you got an article in front of your name. What do you think of this one?
Well, you know, come out to the Remla Array. We'll get together, have a few laughs, right? I mean, this is such a fun episode. I love that it kind of starts off in a way that you think it's maybe just a slice of life episode, right? Because it's like, oh, we've got this thing that happens because after so many light years on a starship, we gotta do a little baryon sweep here and clean out the old cobwebs and whatever, right? And so, I mean, what I love about it is that it's such a great balance between the A and the B stories, right? Because you got what's happening down on the planet, you got what's happening with Picard, and it gives everybody a chance to do something without one story really overtaking the other. Because, we've had those episodes where we watch it and are like, man, I actually like the B plot of this story better than I did the A. But it was like just a really good balance of things in there. And so, and for as many times as I've watched it, as Melissa and others have mentioned, Data was cracking me up. Why? I don't know. I think it's at that point now. I've seen some of these episodes so many times that it's just you're more listening to it than you are paying attention to it. But this time, as I'm watching Brent, I'm like, okay, how have I not caught the facial expressions? And I don't know that guy, man. I seriously. Some of the stories that I've heard about Brent and Jonathan, the pranks that they would play on set, I don't know how they got anything done. But seriously, just an absolute, just fun all around episode. It's light, but also has an element of seriousness to it. But it's just, I don't know. I would say I agree. It's probably a top 5 episode.
Aww.
Did we just become best friends? All right. Thank you very much. The Matt Boardman, Jake's final take. Srock, any final thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, I think they could have called this episode To Be or Not to Be.
Bloop, bloop, bloop.
There it is.
That's great.
The hostage situation with Riker, and then I think the room was a little too small for me to be believing that all these conversations were happening without anybody picking up on it. they were walking from here to there and walking from there to there. And like the room is like literally 40 square feet. It's everybody can hear each other. So I felt like they needed a bigger space for that hostage situation. And then and to see Riker kind of casually like standing against the leaning on the doorway or whatever, it just didn't give the element of tension or hostage really. So I wish they improved on that. You mentioned booby trap earlier, and when you say that, Allison, Riker has a whole new meaning for that. That's he's got his own definition of it.
What is it?
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
That's what I said. Booty trap.
Yeah. Whose name was also
Uh,
Data. That character's name was also Data.
Right.
Yes. And of course, to piggyback off of that, of course, Riker doesn't need a saddle because he always rides bareback.
Oh,
What does that mean?
That's a horse reference. It's a horse joke. That's
all right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I
buy
crawled
it
through.
today.
Yeah. No, I'm getting it all out. Just get it all out. But no, I laughed because I when I was watching Picard crawl through those conduits, I was thinking of my own experience crawling through conduits, and I remember my time. I think there was a fire going on in there, so you had to duck the fire as well. So just crawling through conduits, it's just it's part of the rite of passage for filming on these shows, and so I thought that was funny. Yeah, and I did also like to see Tim Russ in this episode. I think he stands out just as an actor in general. He didn't have that much to do, but he was acting opposite of Picard, and I thought he stood out, and even though it was a brief performance. So just tells you the kind of actor he is. It doesn't take much for you to recognize him and to see him kind of make a mark and impact on the show episodes. And then lastly, I'll just say that I thought it was very clever to make this essentially an away mission on the Enterprise. By taking everybody off the thing and then having Picard do that, it's a very clever way to use the Enterprise as the away mission. And I think it made Picard look exceptionally clever and courageous and things of that nature, which are always good for his image as a captain. So I did mention that I would have liked a little bit more contrast with the embellishments of Hutch's storytelling. I think they should have really identified that he was an embellisher and kind of always enlarging or aggrandizing the situation. That would have played very well against the contrast of Picard not being an embellisher and actually doing the heroic things that Hutch is claiming to be doing or associated with. I thought that would have worked better as a contrast. But yeah, overall, it was funny. It made me laugh. And yeah, again, how long can two people talk about nothing? That was one of my favorite lines in this episode as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Sirach, for making us laugh a lot again. Thank you very much, everybody else. The Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Mark Zutkoff, Allison Leach Hyde, Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear, Chris Garris, Chuck A., Eve England out in Wales, Jason M. Oken. What's the M stand for? You'll never know. Melissa Longo for myself, Sirach, Melissa, and of course, Mr. Aaron Eisenberg. It's Maurice, by the way. Maurice. Like one of the Bee Gees. I don't know. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We'll see you in Things Left Unsaid. If not, we'll see you next time on The Seventh Rule. Maybe it's Murray.